All right. Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you all had a good session in the breakout room. So once again, welcome to the Bodies Online Magdalena Online Festival, our very first Magdalena Online Festival. Earlier today, we had the opening and we had Pavati Bao singing for us, and that started and opened the festival. My name is Elizabeth de Roza, and I'm one of the organizing team of this festival. And it gives me great privilege today to actually introduce the start of our panel. So over the next 3 days, there will be 3 panels. And the 3 panels bring together a diverse group of women, a group of women theatre and performance practitioners and researchers to share how their artistic practices have shifted due to the pandemic, and to discuss the questions of embodiment and liveness with and in an online space that this shift has all affected us. Also, this panel will be in English, but if you do need translation, please go into the translation room where Eugenia Cano will be translating the panel for us. So today's panel, the theme is Bodies on Life. The panel asks these questions. What is liveness and life? What happens to theatre when bodies are distant? When here is also there? It asks how our many senses are engaged through these online spaces. This panel opens up a discussion and insights on how practitioners engage liveness in their practice. We have 3 speakers today. I'm very happy to introduce all 3 of them. Let me first introduce to you our first panelist. We all know her, and she is Jill Greenhalgh. Jill Greenhalgh has been a professional theatre maker since 1978. Her career as a performer, director, and producer has primarily focused on experimental physical practice. The specific interest in the performance work was developed by women that resulted in this foundation in 1986, the Magdalena Project, international network of women in contemporary theatre, which has grown into a worldwide organization with ongoing activities in 25 countries. Jill remains the founding artistic director of this project. Jill has also toured her own performances and led workshops extensively within Europe, Australasia, and the Americas throughout these years. Our second speaker or panelist is Rakini Devi. Rakini is an Indian-born, Kolkata and Sydney-based multidisciplinary performance artist. Dr. Rakini Devi work centers on female religious iconography as protests against global misogynist atrocities, including female infanticide and global femicide. Trained in 2 forms of Indian classical dance, Bharatanatyam and Odissi, slow, Dr. Devi, Kalika Dance Company, 1991 to 1998, integrated classical Indian dance form into a contemporary context. Her doctoral exegesis, Urban Kali, from sacred dance to secular performance, incorporated her 3 decades of performance and practice-led research. Our third panelist is known as Maria X. Maria X is a professor in theatre, performance, and technology, and she is the Associate Dean of Research and Enterprise at Kingston School of Art, London. Maria has worked as a curator, producer, performer, and community organizer in the United Kingdom and internationally. She has published and lectured widely and is the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Performance Arts and Digital Media. Welcome to my three panelists who will open today's panel. And so without any delay, I will hand over to Jill. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And particularly thank you to Parvati for the opening songs. It was wonderfully grounding, and I thank her from the bottom of my heart. This statement that Elizabeth gave us a while back, this embodiment has had its day, I couldn't agree less. And if anything, I think this last year of Zoom mania and Zoom communication has proved that. A lot of levels, including my own, of anxiety have risen. It's almost epidemic, the doctors tell me, that a third of their patients are suffering from anxiety. And I believe that's because we are not in embodied connection, in embodied proximity to those who we love and who inspire us. So I couldn't disagree more with this. Embodiment has had its day. I want to thank the organisers as well of this festival. I think they've achieved something extraordinary. It's a very difficult time to make work and to inspire us all to come along. I'm also glad that I'm one of the first speakers because I'm quite a Luddite. I'm a techno-twit. I do not like the online forum, but I have risen to the challenge of attempting to bring one of my performances onto the online forum. I'm glad I'm going first because I'm hoping that everything that comes after will prove me wrong, that there are wonderful examples. And again, I have to come back to Parvati because somehow she completely transcended the technology with her voice just now. And that was marvelous. But this transcending of the technology is the thing that worries me most. Because I feel very controlled by it on many levels. And that's sort of what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to speak to the theme of this panel through the lens, and there I am already using camera language through the lens of Daughter, which is a performance that I have done 22 times, I think, in 15 different countries with over 200 women. Normally what I do is I work within a festival. I will work for 20 hours with a group of women who have selected to do the Daughter performance. The Daughter performance is looking at the mother-daughter dyad. It's a very intimate performance. It's a one-on-one performance. So there are maybe 12 performers usually, each with their own table and two chairs. And they will engage with just one person. Each of the tables will be engaging with one person, telling stories, speaking to them about their mother or their daughter through the use of objects and storytelling. The reason I do this work is because the reason every time I'm invited to a festival, I've resisted for the last many years, in fact, in just doing a workshop. I don't want to do workshops anymore. I want to make work, and I want to make work to scale. And you can't do that. It's just impossible to tour 12 women in these days if you're doing anything in the least bit experimental and non-commercial, which my work isn't. So my strategy has been to create strategies to be able to make a piece of work in 20 hours. And the latest of those experiments is Daughter. And as I said, I've done it 22 times, I think, across in 15 different countries. And it's been very successful, I think. Its intimacy is very successful. It touches. But the performance completely works on proximity and on intimacy and on eye contact. The direct communication between the storyteller and the listener, and the eye contact. And the first thing I discovered when we started making this online version of Daughter was that you can't have eye contact on Zoom unless you stare at a green dot, but you're not having eye contact because you're just staring at a camera. So that's the first hurdle, really, the most principal hurdle, that my performers cannot look their listeners, the person at their table, in the eye. Helen suggested that Helen challenged me, as she does on many things, to try to do Daughter online, and I agreed, but with the caveat that I would pull out if it didn't work at any point. What we did was we worked 3 hours a week. The group that I work with, we were going to do Daughter in Nottingham March before last, and then of course COVID happened, and we couldn't do it. It's the first time I've done it with a British group of performers, so I was very excited, but then we couldn't do it, so we put it off for a year. But then this opportunity came, and I approached the same group, and they really wanted to try to do it, and they have pushed me through to what the performance will be on Sunday, because many times I've wanted to pull out, from the moment we couldn't make eye contact to many other obstacles that came along that just seemed to jeopardize and compromise the work of what I know Daughter can be. So we worked every 3 hours a week from February. I went through the process as best I could that I normally go through, and then the tech took up much of the frustrating kind of time. The tech was the strongest obstacle. I'd also want to say, on the other side of that, the joy. I live rurally, and I've been very isolated, just me and my dog, in a rural situation for the whole of lockdown. So for a year, I've seen very few people. So the joy of Zoom, having tea on Zoom and meeting people on Zoom, has been a lifesaver. I have to say that. And also the joy of doing some work, rehearsing once a week, was also a lifesaver, actually getting on with some work. But having said that, the frustrations are the things that I want to talk about, and I'm sure these will be unpicked by people throughout the festival. Apart from the eye contact, the other thing that really disturbs me is the frame. The frame is so rigid when we're working online. It is a rigid rectangle. When we're performing live, or when we have a live audience, that those audience members can zoom into detail. They can look away. They can take in a whole space, rather than just this frame that we are presenting. So this first thing is the rigidity of this frame that I really want to question, and want to try to understand how we can master it or go through it, so for it not to be such a rigid limitation? And I have no idea how to answer this. The other obstacle, or the other issue that really affects me, is to do with that of commitment. And that's from the audience. So when we're doing things online, we can very easily make ourselves go dark and just have our name there and go off and get a cup of tea, and or go to the toilet, or go and do something else, or answer our emails, or whatever. The commitment to the performance, to being inside the performance, is so much less. So there's no travel. You don't have to make a journey to see this performance. You don't have to invest financially to see this performance. You don't really have to invest much time, because if you're a bit bored, then you just switch off and go do something, and nobody will see you shuffling out of the theatre, as it were. So this commitment, this investment, audience investment, is another level that I would like to look at and like to challenge, and see how other people are resolving that. Again, on the flip side, the presence that is necessary to keep somebody with you online requires a great deal more than if they are live with you. The presence to block out anything else and just be in the performance, lights down, as it were. Parvati just did that quite wonderfully, and I really hope that I see that more this week. I'm sure I will. The third thing that I wanted to just touch on is the issue of loneliness. I think the online platform is deeply, deeply lonely. And I say that because it's a nice chat forum, the internet and Zoom. It's been a great place to have chats. But every time the chat is over, or the performance is over, or the rehearsal is over, suddenly you press the leave button, and you're in exactly the same place you were an hour ago, half an hour ago, alone, in my case, alone in my kitchen, in my sitting room. And that loneliness, I feel, has been really profound for a lot of people and a lot of practitioners. Well, I don't know, but that's what I'm imagining. And it's quite insidious. It creeps in, loneliness and that feeling. And theatre, live theatre, is the opposite of that, because you're in community, experiencing something together. We think we're in community. In this forum, we're in community, experiencing something together, but I'm absolutely alone. And I've been thinking a great deal about that. How much time have I got, Elizabeth? Do you know?
You have another, just give me a second. You have another 3 minutes more to go. Well, actually 8 minutes, yeah.
Okay, thanks. That's great. So I've talked about the loneliness, I've talked about the commitment, I've talked about the eye contact, and I've talked about, what was the other thing I talked about? Frame. I love film. I love watching films. And I think the genre of film has really developed marvelously, and is an extremely beautiful art form. And I get very excited seeing certain films. And sometimes recently, before lockdown and all that happened, the National Theatre here in Britain started live streaming performances from London, say, from the National Theatre. And that was wonderful in a way for me, who lives very rurally, 7 hours drive from London, to be able to see a live stream. But from the very beginning, even though it was exciting to suddenly see great plays or great operas. I found it intensely frustrating because my view of what I was watching was completely controlled by some young editor in London. They could choose what I was looking at. So watching an opera, for example, they would constantly focus in on a face or, you know, somebody who was singing. And I wanted to see the whole thing as I would in a theatre. So this was one frustration. The other frustration was that it was a live event, and I tried to get over my prejudice of these events. It was a live event. But then they started doing this thing called the encore, which was basically just showing the live event, but 3 weeks later. So it wasn't live anymore, but it was absolutely no different from the live event. It was the same thing. So that became, I liked, in a way, something where I felt so cheated. Because the liveness of being with performers on stage is what theatre is. It's not film, it is live. And in fact, what it was turning my beloved theatre into was film. And very often not terribly good film, really. Not in terms of the kinds of films that we do get to experience.
We have 5 minutes left, Jill.
Okay, won't use it all, I promise. So I just wanted to throw those negative things out. We are in Daughter. We are going to attempt to do this on Sunday. I absolutely love the commitment and honor the commitment of the people who've worked with me, because it's been very frustrating. And particularly thanking Christina, who has helped us with the platforms that we're going to be using. And I hope it functions. But it's been a huge challenge trying to replicate or trying to create this liveness, this intimacy, this proximity, and on a frame that is a rectangle and small in my sitting room. And I just cannot wait to be in the room with performers again and rehearsing, and with audience. And I think going back into that space, I will never take it for granted again after this year of painful distance. Yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you very much.